Chapter 1. A world beyond the fairy tales. The first breath of morningus, the first light of dawn filters through the gaps in the rough-hewn walls of your dwelling. It feels less like the soft embrace of morning, and more like the cold fingers of the world's harshness reaching through. The air is damp and bitter, chilled by the night's lingering frost. You stir from a restless sleep, your body stiff from the cramped straw-filled mattress that has borne witness to too many restless nights. The bed is no sanctuary. The straw is a poor substitute for the comfort of a soft quilt, and the insects have claimed their share of territory, crawling over your limbs, an ever-present reminder that your life is anything but easy. The scent of damp wood and human sweat hangs thick in the air, mingling with the faint odor of the livestock that shares this tiny, humble space with you. A cow's low moo drifts in from the corner, and the occasional shuffle of pigs adds to the chorus of morning sounds. As though the world itself has no sense of privacy, you blink away the heavy weight of sleep, dragging yourself upright. There is no warmth waiting for you, no comfort to coax your body into motion. The floor beneath your feet is cold, and the walls are hard. You glance around the dimly lit room, a room so small that it seems to press in on you from all sides. It is a place designed more for survival than for living, and it does not offer the comforts you've been taught to expect from fairy tales. There is no soft pillow, no clean sheets, and certainly no warmth from a crackling hearth to start your day. Instead, you face the reality of medieval life, raw, unforgiving, and always demanding more from you than you can give. As your eyes adjust to the pale light, the sight of the day's labor looms. There is no time for lingering in bed. A day of toil waits for everyone, and there is no rest for the weary. The fragrance of hardship, the walls of your home, made from unpolished stone and timber, seem to close in as the day awakens fully. You stretch your stiff limbs, the rough fabric of your woolen tunic scratching your skin as you rise. The noise of the animals is ever present, the bleating of sheep, the low grunt of pigs, and the clucking of chickens in their confined space. Just a few feet away, the boundaries between humans and livestock are far too thin here, and privacy is a luxury that doesn't exist in your world. The scent of the room hits you all at once, as thick and oppressive as the morning fog. It is a mixture of sweat, body odor, and the pungent smell of animal waste, all swirling together into an almost tangible weight that fills your lungs with each breath. The smell clings to your clothes, your hair, and even the air that brushes your skin. You cannot escape it. It is the constant companion of your existence, and it has been so for as long as you can remember. There is no sense of separation between you and the animals that share your space. You live, breathe, and toil in this atmosphere of shared discomfort, where every moment is shaped by the struggle for survival. Your home is not a refuge. It is a utilitarian space, a place designed to keep the cold at bay, to house the animals you rely on for food, and to hold the remnants of your daily work. The lack of privacy gnaws at your spirit, for there is no corner to escape to, no quiet space where you can find a moment of peace. You are always within reach of another, and no action, no thought, can be kept private. Your entire life is lived out in the open, surrounded by the constant presence of others, their bodies, their noises, and their struggles, the unforgiving. Morning ritual. The world outside is still dark, the sky a deep shade of purple and blue as the first hint of sunlight barely stretches over the horizon. Yet, as the bell tolls from the distant church tower, you know the day has already begun. The sound is sharp, echoing through the valley, filling the silence like an order. There is no room for hesitation, no time for delay. The bell signals the beginning of another grueling day, and there is no rest for you in the coming hours. With a sigh, you rise from the straw and stretch your aching back. The air is thick with the stench of dampness, and the cold has a way of sinking deep into Your bones. The chill of the floor against your feet makes you wince, but there is no time to complain. There is work to be done. The absence of modern comforts is felt most acutely in the early hours of the morning. There is no warm shower waiting for you, no soft bed to sink back into. Instead, you face the harshness of the medieval world. Lice, fleas, and the grime of the previous day still clinging to your skin. You are dirty from the moment you wake, and cleanliness is a distant dream. A bucket of cold water serves as your wash, though it only leaves you feeling colder and more unclean than before. Your hair is thick with oil, and your skin roughened by the elements, shows no sign of the softness you've heard tales of. The world around you is grimy, and your body is a reflection of that world. Hygiene is an afterthought, a luxury for the rich or the idle. Here, survival comes first, and cleanliness ranks far down on the list of priorities. You dress quickly, your fingers numb with the effort, pulling on layers of wool and linen that are scratchy and worn. The scent of earth and sweat clings to the fabric, a constant reminder of the life you lead, the struggle to feed the body. The light has finally broken fully across the sky, casting a pale, weak glow into the room. But there is no time to marvel at the beauty of the day. The stomach gnaws at you, hungry and unsatisfied. The bowl of pottage that waits for you at the table is not much, but it is something. The soup is thin, more broth than substance, and the bread is stale, hard from sitting too long. There are no eggs to crack open, no fresh fruit to brighten the meal. It is all basic sustenance, enough to fuel you for the day ahead, but not enough to quench the hunger that lingers. This is your breakfast, a meal that barely qualifies as food, yet it is all you can afford. You eat quickly, hardly pausing to savor the taste, because the work is waiting. The fields, the animals, the grind of daily life, they never rest, and neither can you. Your body is hungry, but there is nothing to be done about it. The hunger will persist, and you will learn to live with it, just as you learn to live with the other harsh realities of medieval life. The food is not meant to nourish you in the way modern meals do. There are no comforts in the meal, no joy in the act of eating. It is purely functional, a tool to keep you moving, to fuel your body as it works from dawn until dusk. No indulgences, no respite. This is the reality of your world, where survival is a daily struggle, and every moment is defined by your need to keep going as you finish the pottage. You wipe the last crumbs from your mouth, rise from the table, and head out into the day. The work is waiting for you, and there is no time to waste. The world is not kind, and you must stay strong if you are to make it through. The struggle never ends, and neither does the fight to stay alive. Chapter 2. The medieval body, a vessel of suffering. The first thing you notice in the morning is the relentless itching. It is a gnawing, maddening sensation that greets you even before your feet hit the cold stone floor. The fleas are already at work, and the lice are quick to make their presence known, creeping beneath your clothes and burrowing into your hair. There is no escape. It's not just a nuisance, it's a constant companion, something that burrows its way into your very skin, a reminder of the world you live in. Your scalp itches, and as you scratch, you feel the small creatures scatter, only to return moments later. It doesn't matter how much you scratch or how often you try to bathe, these parasites are part of your life now. They thrive in the filth and grime of medieval existence, and no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to rid yourself of them. The dirt beneath your nails, the rashes on your skin, the discomfort that pulses beneath your flesh, they are all part of the daily battle you wage against your body. In this world, cleanliness is an impossible luxury, and personal comfort is a fleeting thought. The itching extends to your arms, your legs, the backs of your knees, your neck. Every part of your body is subject to the parasites. You look down at your skin, and it's not just the dirt that has marked you. The bruises, cuts, and abrasions that accumulate daily are still there, some still festering, others swollen and raw. Every inch of you feels as though it is under siege. Yet, you have no choice but to push through. The world will not stop for your discomfort, and neither can you as the day begins. Your body is already exhausted, already worn from the effort of simply existing in a body so constantly attacked by the smallest of enemies. The battle against the parasites never ends. Wounds that never healed, wounds that life hands you in the medieval world, are not just physical scars, they are potential death sentences. The slightest scratch, a scraped knee from a fall, or a nick from a work tool, could lead to something far worse. Without modern medicine, even the smallest of injuries carries with it the threat of infection. There are no bandages, no disinfectants, no antibiotics. There is only hope that the infection won't spread, that your body's natural defenses will be enough to fight back, but it's a losing battle. Infection thrives in the dirt and grime, seeping into the raw flesh where the skin is broken. What starts as a minor injury can quickly turn into something more. The pain starts slowly, a dull ache, and before long, it becomes a fire that consumes you. The swelling creeps in red and inflamed, and there is nothing to ease it but the occasional poultice of herbs that has been passed down through generations. But even these treatments are not guaranteed. You've seen others suffer, those who thought their wounds would heal, but instead they festered, spreading poison through their bodies. The idea of a quick recovery is something reserved for the stories of kings and queens. For you and for everyone in your village, recovery is a fleeting wish. There is always the fear that something small could become something much worse. A simple scratch might be enough to take you from the world, and you are left powerless to do anything but wait and pray. The same wounds that others have suffered in the past seem to haunt you every day. You learn quickly to avoid the slightest injury, for each scrape is a potential death sentence in this world where death lingers just beneath the surface of everyday life. There is no magic cure here, no comforting hope that everything will be fine. There is only the reality that your body is fragile, and any injury, no matter how small, could mean the end, the rotting teeth and broken bodies be the time you reach your 30s. Your body feels like a collection of worn-out parts. Teeth, once sharp and strong, have become brittle and decayed, their jagged edges a reminder of how little care was given to your mouth. You have no choice but to endure the dull, throbbing pain of toothaches that never seem to go away. Without the luxury of modern dentistry, you can only hope that the ache will subside, or that the tooth will fall out before it causes too much trouble. There is no such thing as a healthy smile here. What was once white and strong has now become yellowed and chipped, a reflection of the grueling life you lead. The pain in your teeth is constant. You try to ignore it as best you can, but it's always there, a dull throb that never lets up. The food you eat doesn't help bread so hard that it threatens to crack your already fragile teeth. The absence of fresh fruits and vegetables that could help strengthen them. Instead, you survive on what you can scrounge together: porridge, stale bread, maybe some cheese if you're lucky. These simple, unsatisfying meals offer no relief to your suffering body, no escape from the pain that lingers with every bite. Your bones, too, feel tired, old before their time. The endless physical labor of life in the fields, the lifting, the carrying, the bending, takes its toll. Every joint aches as you rise from bed, and every movement is accompanied by the sound of creaking bones. By the age of 25, you already feel worn out, your body not just marked by time, but by the effort of trying to survive. You are a vessel of suffering, and each day only adds more wear to your bones, more pain to your muscles. The idea of feeling young is foreign here. You are already aging long before your time. The long hours that age you be the time you reach 25. The idea of youth feels like a distant memory. Your body, once fresh and strong, is already showing the signs of the years of back-breaking labor that you have endured. The long hours spent in the fields, the constant physical strain of working from dawn until dusk, take their toll. There is no time for rest, no time for recovery. The very nature of medieval life is a test of endurance, and the result is a body that feels far older than it should. Your hands are calloused, your back is stiff, your legs ache from the constant strain of carrying heavy loads. The work is never ending. From sunup to sundown, you are bent over, lifting, hauling, planting, or tending. There is no relief. Your body learns to carry the weight, but it does so at a cost. Your muscles are fatigued, your joints swollen, and the aches and pains of a life spent laboring are etched into your very being. You know you will never be free from this wear and tear. Your body, which once held the potential for a long life, is now a testament to the brutal demands of medieval existence. It's as if your youth has been stripped away, one laborious task at a time. The world doesn't give you time to savor the moments of your life. It only demands that you keep moving, that you keep working. You don't have the luxury of resting, of pampering your body the way others might. Instead, you face the long hours with the quiet understanding that your body is aging far faster than it should, and that the passage of time is measured in aches, pains, and exhaustion. Chapter 3. The Struggle for Survival, a Life of Work. The first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, casting a muted glow across the sprawling fields. You awake, already feeling the weight of the day before your feet even touch the cold. Earth beneath you. The sun rises, and so must you. The hours ahead will be long, filled with grueling labor, the endless repetition of tasks that will stretch your body and test your endurance. There is no time to savor the morning air, or to linger in the comfort of your bed. The fields are waiting, and they demand your strength with nothing more than a rough plow in your hands. You step into the soil, feeling the weight of the earth beneath your feet. The land gives no comfort. It is unforgiving and relentless, just as the work is. The sun climbs higher, and with it, the heat. Your back aches from the constant bending. Your hands blister from the rough wood and cold metal of the plow. Each turn of the soil seems to take more out of you than the last, yet there is no rest. You push forward, driven by the understanding that survival depends on this labor, on the seeds you plant, on the crops that will eventually rise from this ground. The rhythm of the work is unyielding. Sowing the seeds, plowing the earth, and then later, harvesting the fruits of your labor. Each step demands hours of your time, each task draining your energy. There is no joy in this work, no satisfaction in the act of planting the seeds. It is merely survival. The land gives no rewards, no promises of comfort or ease. All it offers is the struggle, the physical toll it takes, and the hope that the harvest will be enough to feed your family. As the day stretches on, your body begins to protest. The heat of the sun beats down on your neck, your muscles sore and stiff, your hands raw from the constant motion. But there is no end in sight. The fields must be tended, and the crops must grow. This is the life you lead, the struggle for survival. There is no escape, no reprieve. Only the soil and the endless labor it demands. The blacksmith's hammer, the rhythmic pounding of the hammer against the anvil, echoes in the small blacksmith shop. You step into the heat, the air thick with the smell of burning coal and molten metal. The forge crackles, flames licking the air as you prepare for another long day of work. The blacksmith's trade is not for the faint of heart. It is a life of heat, sparks, and constant toil. The fire from the forge burns your skin, and the noise of hammer against metal fills your ears, leaving your head pounding with each strike. The anvil is your world. Each piece of metal must be hammered into shape, molded with precision and care. Yet, no matter how careful you are, the heat never abates. Your hands sweat and blister from the fire, the leather of your gloves charred from constant exposure. Sweat pours down your brow, stinging your eyes, but you don't stop. The work demands everything, and the only thing that matters is the task at hand. The noise is deafening, but it's familiar now, just as familiar as the smell of hot iron, the feel of the hammer's weight in your hand, and the burn of the forge's heat. The blacksmith shop is more than a place of work. It is a forge for endurance. Here, you create tools that will build the future axes, plows, nails, and swords, but it comes at a cost. The work is brutal. The heat of the forge becomes your constant companion. The hammering of metal against metal becomes a rhythm that marks the passing of each day. And yet, despite the harsh conditions, the satisfaction comes not in comfort, but in the knowledge that what you create matters. You make things that are essential, that will be used by those who labor in the fields, by the soldiers who fight in the wars, and by the villagers who rely on your tools to survive. But the toll on your body is undeniable. The heat, the constant physical strain, the repetitive motions, all of it wears on you. The work never ends. There is always more to be done, always another piece to forge. The hammer continues its rhythm, and you continue to strike the fire. Burning brighter with each passing moment, women's work in a man's world, in the shadow of the fields and the forge. The work of women is often hidden from view. Women's lives are tied to the hearth and home. Their labor is essential, yet it is often overlooked, the quiet foundation upon which the household rests. From the moment the sun rises until the moment it sets, their work is unrelenting. There is no break, no moment to rest. The tasks are endless: cooking, cleaning, bearing children, and supporting the household in ways that go unnoticed by those who toil outside the home. The hearth is the center of life. It is where food is cooked, clothes are washed, and warmth is found. But it is also where a woman's time is consumed. There is no luxury of time to herself, no space to rest. From dawn to dusk, her hands are busy, working tirelessly to ensure that the household functions. The cooking never stops. The washing never ends. The children need care, and the men need their food. The weight of expectation is heavy, but there is no one to lift it. There is no recognition of her labor, no moment of appreciation for the work she does. The world outside may seem rough, but inside the home, the labor is equally grueling. The demands are constant, and there is no space for self-pity. Women endure quietly, carrying the weight of their work without complaint, though the fatigue often threatens to overtake them. They are the unsung heroes, the ones whose labor is invisible, but essential to the survival of the household. And yet, despite the exhaustion, there is a quiet resilience in their endurance. They do the work because it must be done, and they do it with a quiet strength that often goes unnoticed. No escape a life without Lysarai in the medieval world. The concept of a break is alien. There are no weekends, no vacations, no time off. Work is constant, and even when the sun sets, the tasks don't end. The day's labor may come to a close, but the evening brings its own set of responsibilities. There are animals to tend to, fires to stoke, and preparations to make for the next day. The work never stops, and rest is a luxury you cannot afford. As darkness falls, the world seems too slow, but your work continues. The night brings its own set of challenges, keeping the fire alive, checking the animals, and ensuring that everything is in place for the morning. There is no moment to relax, no space to rest. The body may be tired, but the mind is always alert, always planning for the tasks that lie ahead. The hours are long, and the days never end. Leisure is a foreign concept. You do not have the luxury of free time to enjoy life's simple pleasures. The work defines your existence, and rest is something that happens only when your body gives way, when exhaustion finally takes over. But even then, it is a fleeting reprieve. The next day brings more of the same, a cycle that stretches on, unbroken, until the body can no longer endure. In the medieval world, life is work. There is no separation between the labor of the day and the demands of survival. The struggle for existence is constant, and the rhythm of the work defines every moment. Rest is an afterthought, a distant dream that remains just out of reach. Chapter 4. The unseen threats, disease, and death. The first thing that greets you in the morning is not the sun, but the weight of fear. As your eyes flutter open, the heaviness of the world beyond your small, dimly lit room presses in. There's no time for lingering in the warmth of sleep, no soft, comforting start to the day. The fear is always there. It's in the air you breathe, in the people's hushed voices as they speak of the plague, which has claimed so many lives before. It looms over everything, a dark cloud hanging just out of sight, waiting to descend. Each day begins with the question, will it be me today? You dress quickly, feeling the weight of every action. It's a life of constant vigilance, always watching for the slightest sign of sickness in yourself or your neighbors. A cough, a fever, the smallest tinge of pain. These are the signals that send waves of dread through your body. The Black Death, the great plague that ravages the land, has no pattern. One moment, it's distant, a story whispered about other villages. The next, it's knocking at your door, moving closer, creeping through the air, carried by the rats and the fleas they carry. There's no cure. There's no treatment. In a world that has no understanding of germs, infection, or the invisible, threads that link life and death, every day feels like a gamble. Will you survive the plague? Or will you fall victim to the unseen threat that hovers over everything? The knowledge that there's no cure, no help, nothing but hope and fear sits heavily in your chest. You walk among the living, but with each step, you wonder how many. Others have already been touched by the sickness. There is no way to tell. The fear is constant, gnawing at you from the inside, just as the plague gnaws at the life of the village. The battle with infection's smallest scrape, the faintest wound, could be your undoing. There is no room for carelessness. A mere scratch, a cut from a rough tool or an unnoticed thorn, could soon become a festering wound. Without the knowledge of how infections spread, without antibiotics, every injury carries with it the weight of fear. The chance that the simple wound could turn into something worse is ever present. Like a shadow that follows you wherever you go, there is no modern medicine to save you. The world's understanding of disease and infection is rudimentary at best. When you're injured, the best you can hope for is a poultice made of herbs, maybe a bit of cloth to bind the wound. But the healing process is slow, and you feel at every moment the pain of your body's fight against the invisible enemies that swarm in your bloodstream. As days pass, you can only watch as the infection spreads, and you are powerless to stop it. You've heard stories of others whose wounds became something more, whose limbs became swollen and black as the poison spread, overtaking their bodies in ways you can't imagine. The infection, unchecked and unchallenged, becomes a death sentence. There is no one to turn to, no healer who can offer anything more than what you already have. The knowledge is so limited, and the options even fewer. You battle not just the pain, but the overwhelming knowledge that even a small injury could be your end. The battle with infections is quiet and unseen. You don't hear the battle as it unfolds in your body. Instead, you feel it, the slow creep of death, moving just beneath the skin, inch by inch, day by day. There is no hero's struggle, no noble fight to the end. There is only survival, and even that is uncertain. The constant presence of sickness is a constant companion in your world. You are never more than a moment away from it. A fever, a cough, a rash, these are the harbingers of the unknown, the invisible forces that can take you without warning. The air is thick with disease, and every breath carries the potential to be your last. Children, so full of life, often do not survive to see their 5th year. The frailty of life is evident in every face, every fragile body. Adults are worn down, not just by the years, but by the constant assault of illnesses that plague their days. It is a world where the simplest ailments, the ones we take for granted, can turn deadly. A cough, a cold, a headache, these are the things that could end your life. There's no doctor to visit, no pharmacy where you can find something to ease your suffering. Instead, there are vague remedies, unproven and often ineffective, passed down through generations. Some work, some don't. But they are the only hope you have, and you grasp at them with all your strength. But hope is fragile, and so is the human body. You see the signs of wear in the faces of those around you. The skin becomes sallow, the eyes dull. You see the fever in the flush of their cheeks, and the exhaustion in the way they move. They fight through it, but for how long? When sickness strikes, there is little room for rest. The work doesn't stop, and the daily tasks must still be done. Yet, the sickness lingers, sometimes for weeks, sometimes only a few days, but it always leaves its mark. The weight of sickness is heavier than the physical toll of labor. It takes your energy, your spirit, leaving you hollow, drained. You wonder when it will reach you, and if you will be the one to succumb to it. Each day, the sickness hangs in the background, always just behind the veil of normal life. You can't escape it. It's woven into the fabric of existence. The presence of sickness becomes a part of you, just as the hunger and fatigue do. It's not something you fight against, it's something you endure. Day after day, the short life expectancy life is fleeting. You don't have to look far to see it. By the time you're 30, you are already considered old, your body worn and tired from years of labor and sickness. The ravages of disease, the constant toil, the lack of proper nutrition, these things age you quickly. You are aware every day of the fragility of your existence. Each step is taken with the knowledge that you are living on borrowed time. The harshness of the medieval world means that death is never far away, whether it comes through disease, an accident, or the simple exhaustion of life. Death is a constant presence. The death of children, especially, is an ever-present sorrow. The cries of mothers whose babies never see their first birthday, the empty cradles that should have been filled with laughter, these are the realities of the time. Life expectancy is short, and every day that you survive is a gift in itself. The idea of living to old age is a distant dream for most, a luxury enjoyed by a rare few. For the majority, the years are measured in struggles, not in the length of life, but in the moments between sicknesses, between injuries, between battles with the unseen forces that threaten to take it all away. The idea of living past 40 is almost unheard of. You see the elderly, but they are rare, their bodies frail, their minds dulled by the long years of suffering. It is a reminder that every moment counts, that life in the medieval world is fragile and precious. It can be taken at any moment by the plague, by disease, or by the very conditions that make up this unforgiving world. Chapter 5. The Feudal System, Power and Control. As the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, you rise from your humble dwelling, your body already aching from the labor that awaits. The fields are waiting, as they always do. Your life is bound to the land, tethered by invisible chains that tighten with each passing year. You owe your labor to the Lord of the Manor, the one who holds dominion over this stretch of earth and over your life. Every morning is a reminder that your existence is not your own, that your very survival is tied to a system that has held sway for centuries. The land, though fertile and rich, is a heavy burden. You work the soil with your hands, plowing, sowing, and harvesting, but the fruits of your labor are not yours to keep. The Lord's share, taken in the form of rents and tithes, leaves you with little to feed your family. You live with the constant weight of obligation, knowing that every hour spent toiling in the fields is an hour you owe to someone who will never truly understand the depth of your struggle. Freedom is an illusion. You may walk the earth, breathe the air, but you are not free. Your days are dictated by the needs of the land, by the whims of a Lord who may not even know your name. If you are lucky, the harvest will be plentiful, and you may survive the coming winter. If you are not, you will watch as your family grows weaker, as your life is slowly drained by the insatiable demands of the system that controls you. This is the reality of being a peasant in the feudal system. It is a life lived in the shadows of wealth and power, where your existence is little more than a cog in the great machine that keeps the nobles fed and protected. The idea of freedom, of autonomy, is something you can only dream of just as. You can only dream of a life where you are not beholden to another, the life of a lord luxury or misery. From the perspective of the peasant, life as a lord seems like the pinnacle of privilege, wealth, land, and power at your fingertips. But even the life of a noble is not free from burdens. The grand manor, with its walls of stone and rooms of warmth, offers little solace when you are constantly on edge. Knowing that threats lurk both within and outside your walls, the power you wield is precarious, built on a foundation of wealth and land, but always vulnerable to the whims of rivals and the hunger for more. You may have servants at your command, food on your table, and the comforts of a lavish life, but you live in constant fear. The land you own, the wealth you hoard, can be taken from you in an instant. A rebellion, a betrayal, a war, any of these could strip you of your title, your fortune, and even your life. The Lord's life is one of constant vigilance. The halls of your manor are filled with intrigue, whispers of alliances and betrayals. The threat of enemies, both external and internal, hovers like a storm cloud, always waiting to break. You must protect your title, your family, and your legacy, all while managing the expectations of those beneath you, your vassals, your knights, and your peasants. Power comes at a cost, and that cost is the constant need to maintain control, your wealth and status may shield you from some of the hardships the peasantry endures, but they do not free you from the weight of responsibility. Every decision you make ripples outwards, affecting the lives of everyone around you. And beneath the surface of luxury, you are never truly at peace. The shadow of danger, of betrayal, of losing it all, is always with you, the battle for power in the feudal world. Power is constantly shifting. Lords fight for control of land, wealth, and influence, not only against external enemies, but also within their own ranks. Alliances are forged and broken with little more than a handshake, and betrayal is as common as the changing seasons. In this world, loyalty is a currency, and its worth can be bought, sold, or betrayed. The battle for power is both political and personal. A lord must not only secure his territory from rival families, but also navigate the labyrinth of relationships with his vassals, his knights, and his own kin. Every action is weighed against the possibility of a dagger in the back, a plot hatched in the dead of night. Betrayal is a constant fear, and trust is something earned, yet easily lost. You watch as men you once called allies turn on each other in pursuit of more power. The very same hands that once clasped in friendship now grip swords in deadly silence. The feudal world is built on a fragile web of power, and any misstep can send it all crashing down. The wealth you've accumulated, the land you've conquered, can vanish in an instant, leaving you a shadow of the person you once were. The desire for more, for greater control, drives men to commit unimaginable acts, all in the name of survival and dominance. The battle for power is not just fought on the battlefield, it is fought in the halls of your home, in the chambers where decisions are made, and in the hearts of those closest to you. No one can be trusted completely, for everyone has something to gain or lose. The life of a lord is one of constant negotiation, of playing a game where the stakes are nothing less than life itself. The rigid class system, the feudal system, is a rigid structure, one that defines every aspect of your life. Whether you are born a peasant or a noble, your place in the world is fixed. There is no upward mobility. You cannot change your fate, nor can you escape the life into which you were born. The boundaries are clear, and there is no crossing them. As a peasant, your destiny is sealed before you even take your first breath. You will work the land, live in poverty, and die in the same place where you were born. The notion of rising above your station is a fantasy, a tale spun by those who have never known the harsh realities of life at the bottom. Your labor is what sustains the system, but you will never benefit from the wealth you create. Your life is one of servitude, bound by the feudal obligations that tie you to the land and to your lord. The noble's life, by contrast, is one of privilege and power, but it is equally constrained. As a lord, you are expected to maintain control over your lands, to protect your family's legacy, and to defend your title against any and all threats. Your position in society comes with its own set of responsibilities, and there is no room for failure. While you may have wealth and status, your life is also dictated by the feudal system. Your actions must always be measured, for any mistake could lead to the loss of everything you hold dear. In a world built on hierarchy, your position defines you. Your value is determined not by your personal merits or abilities, but by the title you inherit at birth. There is little hope for change, for your life is shaped by forces beyond your control. Whether you live in luxury or poverty, your place in the social order is unchangeable. Chapter 6. Religion, the center of life. From the moment of your birth, the Church's influence reaches into every corner of your life. It is there, in the air you breathe, in the rhythm of your days, and in the very structure of your existence. It controls your calendar, your laws, your beliefs. The Church is the cornerstone of society, the force that holds everything together. Its presence is not just felt on Sundays, but in every waking moment. You know that the day is divided into prayers, holy hours, and sacred rites. The Church dictates when you work, when you rest, and when you fast. Every part of your existence is shaped by the rhythm of its teachings. You wake to the sound of bells calling you to prayer, your day divided into sacred hours, and even in the quietest moments, you are reminded of God's ever-watchful gaze. From dawn to dusk, there is no escape from its power, for it has woven itself into the very fabric of your life. The fear of God's judgment looms over every decision you make. The teachings of the clergy guide your actions, shaping the way you interact with others, the way you live your life, and the way you prepare for death. The laws of the Church are the laws of the land, and to disobey them is to risk the wrath of both man and God. The Church tells you what is right, what is wrong, and how you must behave to secure your place in the afterlife. Your soul is not your own. It belongs to God, and the Church is the gatekeeper. Even as you go about your daily tasks, there is always a part of you that is aware of the Church's hold. The Church controls not just your actions, but your very soul, and it is this knowledge that shapes the way you move through the world. You live in service to its teachings, guided by its rules, always striving to live a life worthy of divine approval. The fear of hell beneath the surface of every thought and every action, there is the ever-present fear of hell. The Church has painted a vivid picture of the afterlife, one that is filled with unimaginable suffering for those who stray from the righteous path. Hell is not just a distant concept. It is a reality that you can almost feel, just beyond the veil of life, waiting for those who fail to live according to God's commandments. The clergy speaks often of the torments of hell, of flames that scorch the body, of demons that drag the soul into eternal darkness. These depictions are not meant to be mere stories. They are warnings. You hear them repeated in every sermon, in every whispered prayer. The fear is real, and it is meant to be. The threat of eternal damnation is the ultimate tool of control. A constant presence in your life, reminding you that no misstep, no sin, is too small to escape divine wrath. You live with this fear, knowing that every action you take could lead you closer to damnation. Every lie, every impure thought, every act of disobedience could condemn your soul for all eternity. There is no room for error, no room for doubt, for the price of failure is too great to imagine. In the stillness of night, the fear grows. You pray not just for peace, but for protection from the wrath of God, fearing that your sins, whether they are known or hidden, could lead to eternal suffering. The thought of hell lingers in your mind, a specter that never leaves. It is a fear that shapes every decision, every step you take, and every breath you draw. The Church's control over knowledge. In the medieval world, knowledge is not freely shared. It is controlled, hoarded, and dispensed by the Church. The clergy are the keepers of wisdom, the ones who hold the key to understanding the world and the afterlife. For the common folk, education is a luxury that remains just out of reach. The Church alone possesses the knowledge of God's will, and it is through its teachings that you are expected to navigate the world. As a peasant, you are left in the dark, relying on the clergy to interpret the Scriptures, to guide your understanding of the world, and to teach you the ways of God. There is little room for questioning, for to do so is to risk the wrath of both the Church and God. Your understanding of the world is shaped not by your own experience, but by the words of the priests who speak in the language of divine authority. You are taught that the Church holds the truth, and that your role is simply to accept it, to believe without doubt. The knowledge of the elite is carefully guarded, their books and scrolls kept under lock and key. The world of learning, of philosophy and science is not for you. Instead, you are taught that the Church's teachings are enough, that all knowledge you need for salvation is contained within its walls. There is no need to question the mysteries of the universe when the Church's teachings offer simple, divine answers. The control over knowledge extends to your very perception of reality. The world is seen through the lens of faith, and all things are interpreted in terms of divine will. You are told that the earth is flat, that the heavens are above, and that the clergy alone possess the understanding of the universe's secrets. The world is not for exploration. It is for faith. The pursuit of knowledge beyond what the Church allows is a dangerous endeavor, one that threatens to disturb the carefully constructed order of life. The search for salvation, or daily life, is centered around the pursuit of salvation. It is the guiding force behind everything you do, the reason you wake every morning, the reason you labor in the fields, the reason you pray. Everything is done in the hope of securing your place in heaven, of ensuring that when you die, your soul will be welcomed into God's embrace, rather than cast into the eternal flames of hell. Each prayer, each act of charity, each moment of repentance is part of the quest to save your soul. You fast, you tithe, you make offerings to the Church, all in the hopes that these actions will be enough to win God's favor. The fear of hell is always there, lurking in the back of your mind, but so is the hope for heaven. You live not just for the present, but for the promise of the afterlife. The Church has taught you that your actions on earth determine your fate in the afterlife. Every decision is weighed against the eternal scale, and you are constantly aware that any misstep could condemn you to eternal suffering. This knowledge shapes every part of your life. You live in constant devotion, hoping that your piety will be enough to tip the balance in your favor. Every good deed, every act of kindness is an offering to God, a way of ensuring that when the time comes, your soul will be judged favorably, but there is no certainty. The search for salvation is a lifelong journey, and it is one filled with fear and hope in equal measure. You do all that is asked of you, yet you never know if it will be enough. The fear of God's wrath and the hope for His mercy are your constant companions, guiding you through each day, each moment. The search for salvation becomes the lens through which you view the world, and every action is taken with the hope that, in the end, it will be enough. Chapter 7. The lack of comfort a day without rest. The first thing you feel when you wake is the cold. It is not the bite of winter, nor the dampness of a morning mist. It is simply the absence of warmth, the absence of comfort. The darkness of the night lingers even as you stir from sleep, thick and heavy, as if it has seeped into your bones. The world around you is quiet, but it is not a peaceful quiet. It is the kind of quiet that precedes hard work, the kind of stillness. That fills you with a quiet urgency, the awareness that the day ahead will demand more than you have to give. There is no soft light to ease you from sleep, no warm bed, no gentle alarm to slowly stir you from rest. The darkness outside the small window is impenetrable, and as your feet touch the cold earth, there is only one thing you can do: rise and begin. The sounds of the night still hang in the air, distant and muted, but the need to start another. Day presses you forward. Your body is stiff, your muscles still heavy with the exhaustion of yesterday. But there is no time for hesitation. You have a role to play, a task to complete, and the earth is waiting. The early hours are the hardest. You rise before the sun, and though you may not know the exact time, you feel the weight of it. The chill of the morning air bites at your skin, and your breath hangs in the air like smoke. There is no time to savor the first moments of the day. No luxury of lingering in the warmth of the blankets or the softness of sleep. The world outside is dark and still, but your body knows its task. The labor of the day waits, and there is no rest. The unyielding pressure of work from the moment you step into the daylight, your body is in motion. There is no pause, no time for your mind to wander, no moments to savor. The work of the medieval world is all-consuming. You are tethered to the land, to the endless cycle of toil that defines your life. From dawn to dusk, every moment is spoken for, every task is accounted for. The rhythm of your life is not yours to control. It is shaped by the needs of survival. You plow, you sow, you reap. You feed the animals, repair the tools, and gather firewood. You do not choose your work, it chooses you. Each task is part of an intricate web of labor, all designed to keep the world spinning, to ensure that food is gathered, that shelter is built, and that life continues. The idea of leisure, of taking a break, is not just foreign, it is incomprehensible. There is no time for idleness, no space for rest. The land demands constant attention, the animals need feeding, and the tasks must be completed. To stop is to risk everything: your food, your shelter, your survival data as you move through the day, your body never slows. It is not just physical. Work that consumes you, it is mental as well. Each moment is filled with the knowledge of what needs to be done next. There is no reprieve, no time for stillness. Your mind and body are always in motion, always engaged in the endless cycle of work. The world may be still around you, but your life is one of perpetual motion, always moving forward, always working toward the next task, the next step, the physical. And emotional toll be midday, the exhaustion sets in. It is not just your body that feels the strain, it is your spirit as well. Your back aches, your muscles scream for rest, and your hands are raw from the labor. Every motion, every step, feels heavier than the last. The sun beats down on you, relentless, without mercy, and there is no relief from its heat. Sweat drips down your brow, stinging your eyes, but you cannot pause to wipe it away. There is no time to stop, no room to rest. The physical toll is immediate and constant. Your body aches, your joints crack, and your muscles burn from the effort of carrying, lifting and bending. The weariness of the work is evident in every step, in every breath. Yet, this is the life you know. There is no other way. The work continues, the demands grow, and you must keep moving. The day stretches before you, a never-ending path of tasks and toil, with no end in sight, but it is the emotional toll that is perhaps harder to bear. There is no moment of peace, no quiet reprieve from the work that surrounds you. The exhaustion is not just physical, it seeps into your mind, into your soul. The weight of it presses down on you, and you wonder if it will ever end. You find yourself counting the hours, the minutes, but even then, it seems as though time moves at its own pace. Indifferent to your need for rest, every step forward feels like a struggle, yet the knowledge that there is no other choice pushes you onward. The emotional exhaustion is deeper than the physical. It is the feeling of being trapped in a cycle with no escape, the knowledge that there is no room for rest, no time to pause. You live in a world where the very essence of your existence is bound to the work you do, and the weight of that truth is a heavy burden, the absence of self-care in the medieval world. Self-care is a concept far beyond reach. There is no time for reflection, for rest, for nurturing your body or spirit. The luxury of pampering your body or mind is reserved for the rich, for those who do not toil from dawn to dusk. For you, every moment of your day is about survival. There is no space for anything more. Your body is an instrument of labor, and it must perform, no matter the cost. There are no warm baths to soothe your aching muscles, no moments of quiet to gather your thoughts. The only time you have for yourself is the fleeting moment when your eyes close at night, and even then, it is not the restful sleep you long for. It is the sleep of exhaustion, the sleep that comes only after the body has been pushed to its limits. Your mind drifts into slumber, not because it is at peace, but because it has no other choice. Rest is a fleeting thought, something that never fully arrives, something that is never truly earned. You are too busy to care for your own well-being. There is always something else that needs to be done, the chores, the work, the never-ending list of tasks that demand your attention. The idea of self-care is a distant dream, a fantasy that exists only in the stories of others. For you, it is enough to survive, enough to meet the demands of the day. There is no time to stop, no time to reflect, and no time to nurture yourself. Your body, worn and tired, continues its work day after day. There is no time to tend to its needs, no time to listen to its pleas for rest. The harshness of your surroundings means that every second of the day is a fight for your well-being. You fight not just against the demands of the land, but against your own exhaustion. And yet, you continue because there is no other choice. In the medieval world, survival is the only goal, and comfort is a luxury you cannot afford. Chapter 8. The medieval feast, a struggle for food. The earth is a silent, unforgiving companion in the medieval world. When the harvest is bountiful, there is a fleeting moment of joy, a brief respite from the gnawing hunger that defines your days. You work tirelessly, tending to the fields, planting and nurturing crops, praying that the soil will give you enough to survive. For a brief, shining moment, when the harvest comes in, there is abundance. The grains are gathered, the fruits are plucked, and the land offers its gifts, promising sustenance for another year. But these moments are short-lived, and the joy of a full stomach is a rare and fleeting luxury. As the days slip by, the crops dwindle, the stores of food shrink, and the hunger creeps back into your bones. The feast of harvest gives way to the famine of winter, and the promise of a full table fades into the distance. The struggle for food is constant. Your hands work tirelessly to stretch every morsel, every scrap, every last bit of what was harvested, trying to keep hunger at bay. There is no luxury in this existence, no room for indulgence. The idea of abundance is a distant dream. Instead, you count your meals in fractions, measuring every bite and rationing every last grain. The hunger pervades every waking moment, a shadow that hangs over everything. It seeps into your bones and clouds your thoughts. The seasons may change, but the struggle remains constant. The harvest is not a guarantee of comfort, but a temporary reprieve, a brief window of hope in a world that is built on scarcity. And yet, despite the constant hunger, you keep going. There is no choice but to keep pushing forward, to make do with what you have, to find a way to survive another day. Pottage, the stew of serve-all when hunger strikes, the simplest of meals becomes a lifeline. Pottage, the humble stew, is the mainstay of your diet. It is a dish made from whatever you can gather, a hodgepodge of vegetables, grains, and whatever scraps you can find. It is a meal that sustains you, but it is never satisfying. The flavor is bland, the texture often watery, and the portion never enough. Yet, it is all you have, and it is enough to keep you from starving. Pottage is the food of survival, not luxury. It fills your stomach, but it does little to nourish your spirit. In the cold months, when the warmth of the hearth is the only comfort you have, pottage becomes your solace. You sip it slowly, the warmth seeping into your chilled bones. But it does little to ease the hunger that gnaws at you. The stew is nothing more than a means to an end, a way to stretch the food that you have and make it last until the next day. You have become adept at making do with what you have. You know how to stretch a handful of barley into a hearty soup, how to turn a few wilted vegetables into something that can fill the void in your stomach. There is little joy in this process, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you have done what is necessary to survive. The act of cooking becomes a ritual, a chore that you repeat without thought, for there is no time to waste. You don't savor the food. You simply eat it, knowing that the hunger will return no matter how much you consume. Pottage is a humble companion, one that keeps you alive, but never fully satisfies. It is a reminder of the harshness of the world, where survival is the ultimate. Goal and comfort is something reserved for another time, another place. Meet a distant Triamiat is a rarity, a luxury so distant that it feels almost like a dream. The idea of a regular meal of fresh meat, of sitting down to a plate of tender roast, is almost laughable to a peasant. Meat is something that belongs to the wealthy, to the lords who can afford to raise livestock and indulge in their bounty. For you, meat is a distant memory, something you may encounter only on special occasions, or if your lord is feeling generous. It is not a part of your daily life. It is a treat, an event, a rare gift from a world that feels far beyond your reach when you do manage to secure a piece of meat. It is treated with reverence. A small portion is enough to feed your family for days, and every bite is savored as though it were a treasure. The scraps from the Lord's feast may trickle down to you, but they are never enough to fill the hunger that constantly gnaws at you. Even the smallest piece of meat is a victory, a reminder that there is something more than pottage and bread. But those moments are fleeting, and the hunger always returns. The scarcity of meat shapes the way you think about food. You learn to appreciate the smallest scraps, to make do with what little you have. A piece of salted fish, a bit of game caught on the hunt, these become treasures in your eyes, things to be cherished, never wasted. The idea of a feast, of a table overflowing with meats and delicacies, is a dream reserved for those who live in castles and mansions. For you, meat is not a staple. It is a luxury that only appears in glimpses, always just out of reach, the role of beer in a lean world where water is often tainted and unsafe to drink. The medieval peasant's day begins with beer. Weak ale, often made with barley and water, is safer than the water that could easily make you sick. The first drink of the day is not the refreshing sip of cool water. It is the dull, slightly bitter taste of ale, a drink that fills the void of thirst but does little to truly nourish you. Beer is more than just a drink. It is a survival tool. It keeps you hydrated, yes, but it also keeps you alive. The dangers of drinking water from a river, a well, or a stream are very real. Disease spreads easily, and without a safe supply of clean water, ale becomes the safest option. It is a drink that you rely on, not for enjoyment, but for necessity. It is the drink that starts your day, the one that keeps you going through the long hours of labor. The ale is never strong, never the kind of brew that would bring warmth or comfort. It is simply a means to an end, a way to stay hydrated and avoid illness. As the day progresses, you may have more to drink, but there is little joy in it. The ale is a constant, a steady companion that helps you survive, but it never satisfies the deeper thirst, whether that be for comfort, for rest, or for something more than mere survival. Beer, like pottage, is part of the routine, part of the rhythm of life. It is necessary, but never enough. Chapter 9. Living in the dark ages, a lack of knowledge and progress. The world you live in is one where knowledge is a distant dream, reserved for only the few who hold the power and wealth to access it. For the vast majority, the ability to read or write is simply beyond reach. The concept of education, of expanding your mind beyond the immediate necessities of survival, is a luxury afforded only to the elite. The rest of society moves through the world with little understanding of anything beyond the boundaries of their small village or their daily labor. You cannot read books, write letters, or communicate with distant family or friends beyond the sound of your own voice. Your world is defined by the work you do, the people you meet, and the few small interactions that make up your existence. There is no written word to guide your thoughts, no library filled with the wisdom of generations past. What you know is passed down by word of mouth, stories told by the elders, teachings delivered by the clergy, and instructions given by your Lord or those in power. With no education, the world remains a mystery, one that you can only understand through the lens of superstition, religion, and hearsay. You are trapped in a cycle of ignorance, where the unknown is both feared and accepted as part of the natural order. There is no way to challenge or question the things that are taught to you. There is no access to new ideas or ways of thinking. The world is small, confined by the limits of your understanding, and your life is shaped by this lack of knowledge. The inability to read or write creates a barrier, not just to understanding, but to communication itself. The few who can read the Bible or speak Latin are regarded with reverence, for they are seen as those who hold the key to divine wisdom. But for you and the many others like you, knowledge is something intangible, something distant and unreachable. You are left to navigate your life with only the tools available to your hands, your instincts, and the limited understanding of the world that those around you can offer, the medical mysteries of the time when sickness strikes. There is little to be done beyond prayer and hope. Diseases are seen as divine punishment, a sign of God's displeasure with you or your community. Doctors are few and far between, and those who claim to have knowledge of medicine often rely on old remedies that seem no more effective than the simple faith in God. The idea of disease as a result of invisible pathogens, of germs or bacteria, is foreign and inconceivable in this world. Instead, you rely on crude treatments, herbal concoctions, prayers, and perhaps a visit from a traveling healer who can offer little more than the same old advice. Illnesses are often met with rituals meant to appease the divine rather than anything resembling true medical care. The priest may say a blessing over you, and a bit of blessed water may be sprinkled on your brow. These acts, however well-meaning, offer little comfort to the aching body or the fevered mind. When wounds occur, they are treated with what is available, but the lack of understanding of hygiene and infection means that even the most basic injuries can lead to death. A simple cut, if left untreated, can fester and become infected, and with no knowledge of how to properly care for the wound, you may find yourself fighting for your life. Infections spread quickly, and without antibiotics or proper medicine, there is little hope for survival. If the plague comes to your village, there is even less you can do. The fear is palpable as people fall ill with no explanation and no remedy. The Church's teachings offer no answers beyond the idea that it is God's will, and the people must repent. You feel powerless, watching loved ones wither away, unable to offer anything more than your prayers. In this world, death is something that arrives without warning, without reason, and with little hope for prevention. Superstition and Firth medieval world is governed by superstition and fear. The unknown is not something to be explored, but something to be feared, and the answers to life's mysteries are often found in the supernatural. Witches, demons, and dark forces are believed to lurk around every corner, waiting to ensnare the unsuspecting. The fear of these forces shapes everything you do, from the way you behave to the way you view your community. The church, though a guiding light in many ways, also plays a role in fostering these fears. The priests preach of witches and sinners, and trials by ordeal are not uncommon. A woman who acts in ways that seem strange or unpredictable is often accused of witchcraft, and the fear of being condemned to death hangs over anyone who is deemed different, the Church's teachings. Mingle with local folklore, creating a world where logic and reason have little place. In your village, there is little room for rational thought. The world is full of omens, signs, and portents, and everyone seems to be looking for meaning in the most mundane things. A black cat crossing your path, an unseasonably cold night, a strange dream, these are all seen as signals of something deeper, something more dangerous. Fear becomes a way of life, a constant presence that shapes how you live and how you interact with others. The witch hunts, the trials, the fear of demons, all of these things become part of your world. Your mind is constantly filled with thoughts of what might be lurking just beyond your understanding, just beyond the edge of the known world. The supernatural becomes a source of both awe and dread, and the lines between reality and fantasy blur. You are taught to believe in the unseen, to trust in the divine and the supernatural, but there is little room for questioning or doubt. Faith becomes your only means of navigating a world filled with fear, the slow path of technological advancement. While the ancient world had made great strides in science and technology, the medieval period is a time of stagnation. The tools you use, though functional, are rudimentary at best. The plow is still pulled by oxen. The wheelbarrow is a labor-intensive tool, and most construction is done by hand, with little more than basic knowledge of physics to guide you. You marvel at the occasional invention or new tool that comes into play, but progress is slow, hindered by dogma, tradition, and the limited resources available. The scientific method, as we understand it today, has not yet been fully realized. Knowledge is not passed through experimentation and discovery, but through the teachings of the Church and the interpretation of ancient texts. There is little room for exploration, and innovation is stifled by the belief that the world is already as it should be. Any attempt to question established practices or seek new ways of doing things is met with suspicion, and the lack of formal education means that few have the tools or means to push the boundaries of knowledge. Life is defined by the tools you have, and for many, these tools are no more advanced than what was used centuries before. The wheelbarrow may still be your primary method of transporting goods, the scythe still your tool for cutting grain. Even as the world around you changes, progress moves at a glacial pace. You long for the advancements you've heard of in distant lands, of inventions that could make life easier, of new ways of thinking that could bring about change. But these ideas are far from reach, constrained by the rigidity of the feudal system and the Church's authority over intellectual pursuits. The result is a world that seems caught in time, stuck in the old ways, despite the potential for growth and innovation. You wonder what could be achieved if knowledge were free, if progress were encouraged. But for now, you are left to rely on what little you know, on the tools you have, and on the hope that, perhaps, the future will offer more than the present. Chapter 10. The Medieval Justice System, a Harsh Reality. In the medieval world, justice is not about fairness or truth. It is about fate, divine will, and punishment. When you are accused of a crime, there is little hope for a fair trial. The process of finding the truth is replaced by the brutal and arbitrary tests known as trial by ordeal. These trials are not about proving innocence. They are about determining divine favor. They are a test of fate where your survival is the only proof of your innocence and your suffering, the only sign of your guilt. One of the most dreaded trials is walking across a bed of hot coals. If you survive the ordeal with your feet unburned, then God has shown you mercy, and you are innocent. If you are burned, the outcome is clear. You are guilty, and your punishment will follow. Another common ordeal is being thrown into water. You are bound and cast into a river or a pond, and if you float, you are seen as being guilty, your body rejecting the water, as if it were rejecting divine judgment. If you sink, it is believed that you are innocent, your soul accepted by the waters, though by the time you are retrieved, your life may already be over. These trials are not about discovering the truth, they are about reinforcing power, about creating fear. If you survive, it is seen as God's will, but if you die, there is no question that your guilt was inevitable. The very nature of these ordeals means that the accused are condemned to the whims of chance, leaving no room for defense, no opportunity to argue your innocence. Justice, as it is understood in the modern sense, does not exist. Instead, it is a cruel game of fate where survival or death is decided by the arbitrary forces of the universe. For the common folk, the fear of such trials is ever present. There is no protection, no safety net. The simple accusation of a crime, whether true or false, can lead to a life-altering event. The idea of justice becomes indistinguishable from terror. Your life is constantly at risk, not just from criminals or external forces, but from the system that is supposed to protect you. In medieval times, justice is not a right. It is a roll of the dice, the role of the church in law church holds. A power that transcends that of the local lords or even the kings. In matters of law and order, the clergy's influence is absolute. The priests and bishops not only guide the people's faith, but also rule over their lives with the iron hand of God's law. The church's word is final, and its moral authority extends far beyond the walls of the cathedral. Crimes against the church are not just crimes against the law, they are crimes against God. When you are accused of a crime, it is not only the secular authorities who may judge you, but the church as well. The priests, those who claim to interpret God's will, may determine your fate. The law is seen as divinely inspired, and breaking the church's moral code is considered to be an affront to the very fabric of society. The punishment for such offenses is often severe excommunication, public penance, or even execution. To commit a crime against the church is to risk your soul, and the consequences are far-reaching. In cases of heresy, the punishment is especially brutal. Heretics, those who speak against the church's teachings, are seen as enemies of God and must be purged. The church has its own courts, its own tribunals, and its own methods of enforcement. Trials for heresy often involve torture, the goal being to extract confessions and eliminate the threat to the established order. The church's laws leave no room for dissent or freedom of thought. You are expected to follow without question, and to challenge the teachings of the church is to risk everything. In a world where religion and law are intertwined, the church's power is both absolute and terrifying. You live in constant fear of crossing its boundaries, knowing that a single misstep could lead to excommunication or worse. The line between sin and crime is blurred, and there is little room for mercy or forgiveness. The Church, as the voice of divine law, makes no exceptions for those who stray from its teachings, and its justice is swift and unforgiving. Punishment as public entertainment in the medieval world. Punishment is not a private affair, it is a public spectacle. The idea of suffering as entertainment is deeply ingrained in the social fabric. Executions, flogging, and other forms of punishment are carried out in full view of the people, drawing crowds who eagerly watch the misery unfold. The very act of punishment becomes a performance where the criminal's suffering is not just a consequence of their actions, but a spectacle to be enjoyed by the masses. The idea that punishment serves as a deterrent is not enough to justify it. In this world, punishment is not only for the purpose of justice, it is for entertainment. The crowds gather in the town square, eager to witness the agony of those condemned. A thief might be hanged, a murderer beheaded, or a heretic burned. At the stake, and all the while, the people watch, cheering, jeering, and sometimes even applauding. There is no sense of remorse, no moment of reflection on the suffering being inflicted. It is a show, a public display of power, and the criminal is nothing more than a pawn in this grim performance. The brutality of these spectacles is difficult to comprehend. The punishment for even the smallest offenses can be swift and extreme. A stolen loaf of bread can lead to execution. A whispered insult to a noble could result in torture. The public nature of these punishments only deepens the sense of fear that permeates the air. People live in constant awareness of the potential for punishment, knowing that even the smallest misstep could lead to an agonizing death before an audience. In a world where suffering is treated as entertainment, humanity is stripped away from both the victim and the audience. The act of punishment becomes disconnected from any notion of justice and becomes, instead, a display of power and control. You live under the constant weight of this threat, knowing that any crime, no matter how small, could subject you to this brutal public spectacle. The fear of punishment in medieval times. Fear is a constant companion. You are always aware that at any moment you could be accused of a crime, whether true or false, and subjected to the harsh justice of the time. The slightest misstep, a word spoken in the wrong place, a glance exchanged at the wrong moment, could lead to ruin. The threat of punishment is ever present, hanging over every action, every interaction, every moment of your life. The fear of being accused of a crime is not just a fear of losing your life, but a fear of losing your dignity, your standing in the community. A public trial, a public punishment, is not just a matter of physical pain, it is a matter of reputation, of the loss of honor and respect. To be accused of a crime is to face humiliation, to be cast out of society, and to be seen as something less than human. The shame of such an accusation follows you forever, even if you are exonerated. You become marked, tainted, and your life becomes a struggle to regain what was lost. The fear of punishment is not just for those who commit the most grievous crimes. Even the smallest offenses can bring about unimaginable consequences. A rumor, a petty theft, or a simple act of defiance could lead to torture, execution, or exile. You live with the constant awareness that the scales of justice are not balanced, that the laws of the land are arbitrary and unpredictable, and that your fate is always at the mercy of those in power. The harsh reality of medieval justice is that it is not a system of fairness, but one of control. You are subject to the whims of those who hold power over you, and any misstep, no matter how small, could lead to suffering and death. In this world, fear is the true punishment, and it is a punishment that you carry with you every day, every hour, every moment of your life. Chapter 11. The Shadows of War, Medieval Conflict, and Chaos. To be a soldier in the medieval world is to be caught in a never-ending cycle of bloodshed and survival. The banners fly, the drums beat, and the call to arms is loud, but in reality, the battlefield is not a place of honor. It is a place of death, of brutal violence, and of an unrelenting, exhausting fight for survival. The armor weighs heavily on your body. The sword feels like an extension of your arm, but none of it eases the burden of what you are about to face. You march into battle with the understanding that you may not come back. Every step is filled with the anticipation of violence, the inevitability of blood being spilled. The noise of clashing steel, the cries of the wounded, and the smell of sweat and fear fill the air. In the chaos of battle, there is no time for reflection, only the instinct to fight, to survive. As a soldier, your body is not just a weapon, it is a shield, a vessel for pain and exhaustion. The stress of war wears on you, both mentally and physically. You fight not for glory, but for survival, for the promise of food, for the chance to return home, if that's even possible. In this world, death comes quickly, and the battlefield is a place where the line between life and death is drawn in the blood of the fallen. It's a constant battle against not just your enemies, but against fear and despair, the idea of honor. So often romanticized, fades quickly in the heat of battle. The soldier's burden is not the pursuit of glory, it is the weight of surviving, of carrying the memories of those you've lost, and of knowing that your own death could come at any moment. You live with that fear constantly, and the toll it takes on your mind and body is heavy. There is no rest, no relief. The soldier's life is one of endless struggle, and even when the fighting stops, the scars remain. Both seen and unseen, raids and invasions, the constant threat for those who live in the small villages scattered across the land. The fear of raids and invasions is a constant presence, one that never allows for peace. The quiet of the countryside is broken by the sounds of horns, the sight of smoke on the horizon, and the sudden rush of men with weapons who storm through your doors. You live with the knowledge that, at any moment, your life could be shattered by the arrival of foreign armies or rival factions, bent on pillaging, burning, and taking everything you've worked so hard to build. The threat of an invasion is ever present. The villages are small and vulnerable, with little to defend themselves. The fields that stretch out before you, once symbols of sustenance, now become a battleground where you fight not for riches but for survival. You watch the horizon for signs of movement, listening for the distant sound of hooves or the beating of drums. Your heart races, and your mind floods with the same thought. Will today be the day? When the raids come, they are swift and brutal. There is no warning, no time to prepare. Villages are burned, homes destroyed, and families scattered. Even the slightest misstep can cost you your life. The invaders show no mercy, and as you watch them take what is yours, you realize that you are powerless to stop it. The land you've worked, the people you love, they all seem so vulnerable to the whims of the stronger, the more ruthless. The helplessness is suffocating, and the fear lingers long after the invaders have left. You never know when they will return. Every day is lived in the shadow of that threat. It's a life of constant fear, where survival is not guaranteed, where your future is uncertain, and where your hopes are limited by the whims of men who seek only to take what they want. The peace that you long for is elusive, and every raid, every invasion, reminds you of the brutality of the world you inhabit. You live in a constant state of vulnerability, always waiting for the next storm to arrive, always preparing for the worst. The chaos of siege warfare. When a siege begins, it marks the start of an agonizing, unrelenting battle, not for land, but for survival. Entire towns or castles are trapped, cut off from the world, surrounded by enemy forces. The people inside the walls watch helplessly as the food supplies dwindle, as water grows scarce, and as the ever-present threat of death looms just outside the gates. Siege warfare is slow. It is not fought with the fast, brutal charge of a battle, but with the agonizing slowness of waiting, of watching your resources slip away. The enemy waits outside, sometimes for months, while you and your people are trapped inside, surrounded by stone walls that once promised safety. The walls now feel like a prison, and the air inside grows thick with fear and desperation. The suffering of a siege is unimaginable. The lack of food becomes your constant companion, gnawing at your insides, leaving your body weak and exhausted. Water becomes a precious commodity, fought over, hoarded, rationed. The days drag on, each one feeling longer than the last, as the tension inside the walls builds. You are always aware that death could come at any moment, either from the enemies' attacks or from the slow starvation of those trapped inside, and yet, even as the hunger and fear grow, you must endure. There is no escape. The siege becomes not just a physical battle, but a mental and emotional one. How long can you last? How long can you survive in a world where every day is filled with uncertainty and terror? The moments of hope are few, and yet they are precious. A glimpse of sunlight through the cracks in the walls, a distant shout that might signal rescue, a single, small meal that keeps you going just a little longer. These moments are fleeting, but they are the ones that keep you fighting, even when it seems that there is no hope left. Life after war scars that never heal, even when the fighting ends, even when the battlefield is silent. The effects of war linger. The wounds of battle do not always heal. The soldiers return home, their bodies scarred, their minds haunted by the violence they have witnessed. But the scars of war are not just physical. The emotional toll is deep and enduring. The memories of fallen comrades, the cries of the wounded, the horrors of battle, they stay with you long after the swords are put down and the armor is removed. For the survivors, the trauma of war is a constant companion. The nightmares, the flashbacks, the moments of silence when everything around you seems to collapse into the chaos of battle once more. These are the scars that never heal, the ones that no sword or medicine can fix. You learn to live with them, to push through the pain, but it is always there, just beneath the surface, waiting to resurface when you least expect it. Even for those who are not soldiers, the effects of war are profound. The villages that once stood proud are now rubble. The homes destroyed, the fields burned. The loss of loved ones, the fear of future raids, the knowledge that life may never return to what it once was, these things remain. You rebuild, yes, but the foundation is cracked, and the fear of the next conflict never truly fades. War has a way of altering the fabric of society, of leaving behind scars that cannot be erased. The emotional and physical toll of war is not something that can be undone. You live with the weight of it, knowing that survival is not just about enduring the violence of battle, but about living with the aftermath. The scars may fade, but they never fully heal. And as time passes, the legacy of war lives on, shaping the way you see the world, the way you interact with others, and the way you fight to protect what is left. Chapter 12. The Hardness of the Heart. Love, Family, and Struggle. In the medieval world, love does not come easily. It is not born from the carefree moments or the luxury of time. Rather, it is forged in the crucible of hardship, where survival is the priority and every breath could be your last. The harshness of life leaves little room for romance or indulgence in tenderness. Yet, in moments of quiet, amidst the toil and struggle, love finds a way to bloom. Fragile and fleeting, but all the more cherished for it, love is often born from necessity. In a world where alliances mean more than passions, finding a partner to share your life with is more than a choice, it's a survival strategy. Yet, within this pragmatic reality, there are moments where hearts touch. The shared warmth by the fire, the fleeting look across a crowded hall, the silent understanding between two people working side by side. These moments, though brief, are what sustain you in a world where death is ever near. In such a world, love is not the fantasy told in songs or stories. It does not wait for a perfect moment. It is found in the stolen moments between the grind of daily life, in the quiet assurance that you are not alone. The touch of a hand, the comfort of shared space, the brief respite in the arms of another, they are fleeting, but they carry more weight than the grand gestures of wealth or power. Love is something to be held onto in a world that offers little else, and when it is found, it is cherished deeply, like the last ember of a fire that still burns after the wood has all but gone. But in a world so defined by hardship, love is never guaranteed. It is a fleeting comfort, a spark that can be extinguished as quickly as it was kindled. Yet, in its moments of light, love becomes the one thing that keeps the darkness at bay. Family bonds survival through unity in the medieval world. Family is not just an emotional connection. It is a matter of survival. The strength of your family is the strength of your life. There is no room for isolation when the world outside is so unforgiving. The bonds you share with your kin are the only true security you have, and without them, survival is uncertain. In a world where dangers lurk at every corner, whether from invaders, the land, or disease, it is only through unity that your family can withstand the storm, working together, day in and day out. Sharing resources and responsibilities is the cornerstone of medieval life. The fields must be plowed, the animals fed, the house maintained, and every member of the family has a role to play. Children, though young, are expected to contribute, to learn the ways of survival. It is a life where every hand is needed, where the family is a machine, with each person a cog that keeps everything moving. The more you work together, the more you ensure each other's survival. But family is not just about work. It is the comfort of knowing that someone has your back, that someone will care for you when sickness comes or the harsh winter takes its toll. It is the shared experience of hardship that forges the deepest bonds. In a world where the threat of death looms large, family is what makes life bearable. The love between family members is the glue that holds everything together, And without that love, the weight of the world would be unbearable, even in the hardest of times. There is a shared resilience within families. The daily struggles become easier when you have each other. The joy of small victories, the comfort of quiet moments, the strength to endure, these are what family offers. In a world so full of hardship, the ties that bind family members are the foundation upon which everything else rests. Marriage as an alliance or romantic love, as we understand it today, is not the foundation of marriage in the medieval world. Instead, marriage is seen as an alliance, a political, economic, or social contract. Families do not marry their children for love. They marry them to secure land, power, and influence. Marriage is about survival, about ensuring that the family continues to thrive. Love may come later, but it is rarely the driving force behind such unions. When a marriage is arranged, it is often done with a purpose far beyond the individuals involved. The bride's dowry is a significant part of the transaction, the alliance forged between families more important than the personal feelings of the couple. For the nobility, marriage can be a means of consolidating power, of strengthening influence, and of ensuring that their lineage continues. For peasants, it may be about securing resources, ensuring labor, or forming alliances that can provide protection in times of need. But even in these pragmatic unions, there is room for affection. It may not be the passionate love of fairy tales, but it is the companionship that comes with shared responsibility. Over time, a husband and wife may grow to respect and care for one another, understanding that their bond is necessary for the survival of their family. In this world, marriage is not about grand gestures or fleeting passion. It is about endurance, loyalty, and the quiet strength that comes with knowing that, together, you can face whatever comes your way. There is still room for tenderness, even within these arranged unions. Over the years, love may blossom, but it is often born of practicality rather than desire. In a time when survival is never guaranteed, marriage becomes more than a union of hearts. It is a union of wills, of minds, and of futures built on the hope that together you are stronger than you are alone, the burden of parentho. In medieval times is always tinged with the shadow of death. While the joy of having children is undeniable, it is often tempered by the harsh realities of the world in which they are raised. The high mortality rates mean that every child is a fragile treasure, one that must be protected with every ounce of strength you have. The fear of losing a child is never far from your mind, and the pain of grief is something that many parents have to endure. The harshness of life means that children often do not live to see adulthood. Disease, famine, and accidents can take them at any moment. The joy of watching your child take their first steps, say their first words, is always overshadowed by the fear of the unknown. You know that any day could be the day that you lose them. The constant vigilance required to protect your children weighs heavily on your heart, and every moment you spend with them is both a blessing and a reminder of how fragile life is. Yet, despite the ever-present fear, the love between parent and child is fierce. You would do anything to protect your children, to give them the chance to grow, to flourish, to live a life that you are never able to have. Parenthood in the medieval world is a constant struggle, a balancing act between joy and sorrow, hope and fear. But the love you feel for your children, the bond you share with them, is what carries you through. It is the reason you wake each day the reason you push through the hardships, and the reason you keep fighting, even when the world seems too harsh to bear. Chapter 13. Religions embrace faith as a lifeline in the medieval world. The church is not merely a place of worship, it is the very foundation upon which society rests. It casts its shadow over every aspect of life, from the moment you are born to the moment you are laid to rest. The church is the guiding force, the protector, the judge. It is both refuge and ruler, offering solace in a world defined by chaos, suffering, and uncertainty. For many, the church is the only anchor in a turbulent sea. Its teachings shape not just your spiritual beliefs, but your daily existence. It is both the source of comfort and the authority that demands unquestioning obedience when you wake each day. The church is there, a presence that you cannot escape. The sound of the bells ringing from the tower calls you to prayer, to repentance, to reflection. Your day is shaped by the sacred rhythm of the church: when to work, when to rest, when to pray. The Holy Scriptures, interpreted by the priests, are the ultimate source of truth, and the teachings of the clergy are seen as the divine will made manifest. Every action, every decision, is filtered through the lens of the church's authority. For those who follow its doctrine, the church offers spiritual solace, comfort in the face of hardship, hope in the face of despair. But with this comfort comes a cost. The church demands absolute loyalty, and failure to follow its commands can lead to dire consequences. Disobedience is seen not just as a moral failing, but as a spiritual one. The church's power extends beyond the walls of the cathedral. It controls not only your actions, but your very soul. In a world where survival is uncertain, where death comes swiftly, the church's grip on your heart and mind is absolute. You belong to God, and in the eyes of the church, you are to live as He commands. The comfort it offers comes at the price of complete submission to its will, faith in the face of suffering. In a world where pain, loss, and suffering are constant companions, faith becomes the ultimate escape. The hardships of daily life weigh heavily on the heart: disease, famine, death, all things that are beyond your control. Yet, in the face of these trials, religion offers a lifeline, a thread of hope that ties you to something greater than yourself. The church promises salvation, offering a vision of a better life after death, a promise that the suffering you endure in this world will not be in vain when death comes, whether it is the death of a loved one, a neighbor, or even your own you. Turn to faith for comfort. It is the church's teachings that offer a sense of peace in the face of loss. The rituals of burial, the prayers for the dead, all reassure you that the soul continues on, that there is something beyond this life. The church gives you the words to say, the prayers to offer, the ways to honor those who have passed. In a world where death is as certain as the rising sun, religion offers the only solace: a belief that life does not end, that the soul is eternal, and that the pain of this world will fade away in the next. Faith is not just an escape. It is a means of survival. In times of disease, when the plague or a fever strikes, and there is no cure to be found, you turn to prayer, to the church. You trust that God will either grant you healing or give you the strength to endure. The comfort of faith is not in promises of a painless life, but in the belief that there is a divine plan and that your suffering has meaning within it. Faith becomes a shield, a way to endure the pain, and a reminder that suffering is not forever the church's influence. reaches far beyond the physical realm. It touches the heart, the soul, and the mind. It gives you something to hold on to when everything else seems uncertain. It offers a sense of purpose in a world that often feels devoid of it. Even in the darkest moments, faith shines as a flickering light, guiding you through the storm of life's struggles, rituals of life and death in the medieval world. The church marks every significant moment of your life. From birth to death, from marriage to mourning, the church guides you through the rituals that shape your existence. These ceremonies, steeped in sacred tradition, provide structure and meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. They are a constant reminder that your life is not your own, that it belongs to God, and that every moment, every breath, is part of a greater divine plan. At birth, the priest blesses your soul, marking the beginning of your journey in this world. Baptism is a sacred act, one that cleanses you from original sin and dedicates you to the service of God. Your life, from that first moment, is intertwined with the church's rituals, and your path is set upon a course defined by faith. As you grow, you continue to partake in these rites: your first communion, your confirmation, each step bringing you closer to God, each act reaffirming your bond with the church. Marriage, too, is a sacrament, not just a personal union between two people, but a covenant with God. The vows exchanged are not only promises to each other, but sacred words that bind you in divine favor. In a world where alliances are as important as affection, marriage is seen as an act of faith, a commitment to a higher purpose. Through the church's blessing, your marriage is sanctified, your union protected by the divine, and when death comes, it is the church that marks the end of your earthly journey. The rituals of death are just as sacred as those of birth and marriage. The last rites, the prayers for the deceased, the funeral procession, all are acts of devotion, ensuring that the soul of the departed finds its way to heaven. In a world so uncertain, where the future is always out of reach, these rituals provide a sense of order, a sense of peace. The church gives you the framework through which you experience the most profound moments of life, reminding you that in both life and death, you are always in God's hands. The fear of damnation in medieval society, the fear of hell, is a constant companion. The teachings of the church fill your mind with images of eternal damnation, of fire and brimstone, of suffering that knows no end. Sin is everywhere, lurking in every corner of your life, and the fear of offending God is ever present. The church's vivid descriptions of hell, where sinners are punished for their transgressions, are meant to instill a deep sense of fear in your heart, a fear that drives you to live in constant devotion and repentance. The fear of damnation is not just an abstract idea. It is a reality that shapes how you live your life. Every act of disobedience, every moment of impiety, is seen as a step closer to hell. The guilt that weighs on you is heavy, and there is no escaping it. You live in a state of constant vigilance, always striving to be good, always trying to earn the favor of God. The knowledge that even the smallest sin could lead to eternal punishment creates a sense of urgency, a drive to constantly improve, to live without fault. Confession becomes a regular part of your life, a way to purge yourself of sin, to seek absolution, and avoid the fires of hell. The fear of damnation is not just a fear of punishment. It is a fear of losing your soul, of being cut off from God forever. This fear is both a motivator and a burden, driving you to seek salvation, but also leaving you with a constant sense of guilt. The Church's teachings create a cycle of devotion and anxiety, a constant struggle to remain pure, to avoid the sins that could condemn you to eternal suffering. The Church's control over knowledge at church is not just the keeper of faith, it is the keeper of knowledge. In the medieval world, the Church controls what you know, how you think, and what you believe. Books are written in Latin, a language few can read, and the teachings of the Church are the only truth. There is little room for dissent or alternative. Ideas. The Church's authority is absolute, and it decides what is considered truth and what is heresy. Knowledge is not something that is freely shared. It is something that is controlled, hoarded, and dispensed by the Church as it sees fit. The Church's control over knowledge is not just about limiting access to books or education. It is about shaping the way you perceive the world. The doctrines of the Church define your understanding of the universe, of morality, and of the divine. There is no room for scientific inquiry or independent thought. The Church's word is law, and questioning it is seen as a threat to both social order and spiritual salvation. Knowledge is not something to be explored. It is something to be accepted. In this world, progress is slow, and ideas are stifled. The Church's dominance over intellectual life means that new ideas rarely take root. The pursuit of knowledge is tightly bound to religious dogma, and any attempt to move beyond it is seen as dangerous. For the common people, there is little access to knowledge at all. The Church keeps the keys to understanding, and for most, that is enough. The idea that there is more to the world than what the Church teaches is a distant thought, one that few dare to entertain. Chapter 14. Seasons of Life, the Ever-Changing World of Nature. The seasons in the medieval world are more than mere changes in the weather. They are the rhythm of life itself, shaping the lives of all who live within their grasp. The passage of time is marked not by clocks or calendars, but by the turning of the earth, the ebb and flow of the seasons. Each one brings its own blessings and burdens. Each one dictates the pace of life, and each one reminds you that survival depends on your ability to adapt. Spring arrives with a burst of life, the earth awakening from its long winter slumber. The frost melts away, revealing the soft earth beneath, and for a brief time, the air is filled with the scent of new growth. The fields are prepared for planting, and there is a quiet hope that comes with the fresh shoots breaking through the soil. Spring promises new beginnings, and it brings with it the joy of renewal. It is a time for planting, for sowing the seeds of the future, for dreaming of what is to come, but with the warmth of summer comes a different kind of challenge. The heat is relentless, and while the crops grow, they must be tended to constantly. The days stretch long, and the work becomes grueling. Summer is both a time of bounty and struggle. While the land gives its fruits, it demands labor in return. The heat can drain you, and the relentless sun can dry out the fields. Summer is a reminder that nothing comes easily, not even abundance. Then comes the fall, a time of harvest, but also of reflection. As you gather the fruits of your labor, you know that winter is coming. The days grow shorter, the nights longer, and the air carries a crisp chill. Fall is a time of preparation, of gathering and storing, of making sure that the work of the summer will carry you through the coming cold. But it is also a time of warning. The abundance of the summer can be deceptive. Fall is the time to realize how much you depend on the earth, how fragile that dependence truly is, and then the harshness of winter settles in. The cold bites, the snow blankets the land, and the world becomes quiet. The world outside the walls of your home grows inhospitable, and survival becomes a matter of endurance. Winter is a time of scarcity, of hunger, and of fear. The land rests, but so too do you. The cold makes everything slower, everything harder. And while there is a beauty in the winter landscape, the silence is often more of a reminder of what you lack. Winter is both a time of stillness and of constant vigilance. It is the harshest time of the year, and every moment of warmth is treasured. The cycle of the seasons is unrelenting. You are shaped by it, dictated by it. It governs what you do, when you do it, and how you live. Each season brings its own set of challenges, but also its own rewards. In the medieval world, survival is inextricably linked to the seasons, and each one forces you to confront the fragile nature of life. As you navigate the cycle of growth and decay, warmth and cold, abundance and famine, you realize that you are not just surviving, you are part of a larger, ever-turning wheel. One that will continue long after you are gone. The work of the earth is both a giver and a taker. It is the lifeblood of the medieval world, providing food, shelter, and warmth, but it demands constant labor in return. There is no rest for the workers of the land, no respite from the weight of the seasons. The work is never ending, and the land itself offers no mercy. The plowing, the sowing, the harvesting, each task is grueling, each one a reminder that survival is hard-earned. But despite the exhaustion, the land is your only hope. As the seasons shift, so too does the work. Spring requires the planting of crops, grain, vegetables, and whatever you can grow to feed your family. The soil must be broken, the seeds carefully placed, and then the waiting begins. The earth provides, but only if you tend to it. Summer brings the labor of maintenance. The crops must be watered, weeds must be pulled, and every day is filled with toil under the sun. The days are long, but the work is necessary. Without it, you would have nothing. Then the fall arrives, and it is time for the harvest. There is a brief joy in seeing the fruits of your labor, but there is little time to rest. The crops must be gathered quickly, stored carefully, and prepared for the coming cold. Fall is a time of frantic work, as you realize how dependent you are on the earth to provide. The land gives, but it also takes. It demands constant attention, constant care, and there is no room for mistakes. One bad season, one failed crop, and your survival for the year is uncertain. The work of the earth is the most honest kind of labor. It is the kind of work that leaves no room for vanity, no space for laziness. Every part of the cycle requires effort, and there is no shortcut to the rewards. The earth is unforgiving. It offers no guarantees, no promises. It is a constant reminder of how fragile life is, how dependent you are on forces beyond your control. And yet, despite all of this, the work is deeply fulfilling. There is a quiet pride in watching the crops grow, in seeing the result of your efforts. The earth is harsh, but it is also the source of your sustenance, the one constant in a world full of uncertainty. The unpredictability of nature, in its vast beauty, is also unpredictable and wild. In the medieval world, the weather is as much a part of life as the seasons themselves. The sun may shine one day, but it can be followed by storms that flood the fields or droughts that crack the earth. The medieval world knows no certainty. One year may bring abundance, while the next may strip away everything. The earth, in all its glory, is a reminder that you are never truly in control. Storms can come without warning, their fury unpredictable and devastating. The gentle rain that nourishes crops can turn into torrents, washing away everything in its path. A long, dry spell can leave fields barren, and the threat of famine looms ever larger. And just as easily, the cold can arrive unexpectedly, killing off crops that seemed safe only days before. In the medieval world, there is little to trust, but the knowledge that nature, with all its beauty, is also wild and unforgiving. The unpredictability of nature means that you must always be prepared. There is no way to know for certain what the weather will bring, no way to predict what the seasons will deliver. Every year is a gamble, and every harvest is a victory earned through hard work and a bit of luck. The weather can be both your friend and your enemy, and survival depends not just on your ability to work the land, but on your ability to adapt to the whims of nature. In the face of nature's unpredictability, you learn to accept that control is an illusion. You do what you can, but you know that sometimes, no matter how hard you work, the earth will decide otherwise. And in that realization, there is both peace and frustration. Nature is a force you cannot master, and that is both humbling and terrifying. The fear of famine is always a lurking threat. The fear of hunger is never far from your mind. When the crops fail, when the seasons turn too harsh, when the stores of grain dwindle, the anxiety sets in. What will you eat when the food runs out? How will you feed your family when the land offers no bounty? In the medieval world, the fear of famine is constant, and it shapes every decision you make. When a poor harvest occurs, the knowledge that hunger is imminent weighs heavily on the soul. You will stretch every last bit of food, turn every scrap into something that can be consumed, and watch the days pass with a growing sense of dread. The winter months are the hardest, when the cold bites and the food is scarce. Without the earth's gifts, you are left vulnerable, exposed, and helpless. The fear of famine goes beyond just the physical need for food. It is a fear of the unknown, a fear of helplessness. Will you survive the winter? Will your children grow weak from hunger? These questions haunt every day. The threat of starvation is not just a physical reality. It is an emotional burden that shapes your every action, your every thought. The idea of not having enough is always with you, and that fear can consume you just as much as hunger can, and yet, despite this fear, you continue. You work, you endure, and you hope that the land will provide, that the seasons will turn in your favor. The fear of famine is part of life, but so too is the determination to survive, to push through, to make it another season. The comfort of nature's beauty amidst the struggle, the harshness, and the unpredictability of nature, there is also beauty. The stillness of a forest after a rain, the serenity of a river flowing gently over smooth stones, the quiet majesty of a mountain at sunset, all of these moments offer a quiet peace amidst the chaos of life. In a world filled with hardship, these small glimpses of beauty become treasures, moments of solace that provide respite from the relentless struggle. The beauty of nature is a reminder that, even in the darkest times, there is light. The stillness of the forest, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the warmth of the sun on your face after a storm, all of these moments offer a kind of comfort, a reminder that the world is not only a place of hardship, but also one of wonder. Nature, in all its unpredictability and harshness, is also a source of peace. It is a gentle balm for the wounds that life inflicts, and in its quiet moments, you find the strength to keep going. Nature's beauty is fleeting, like all things, but it is also constant. It is there, waiting for you to notice, offering you a chance to pause, to breathe, and to find a moment of stillness. In a world so focused on survival, these moments of beauty are the lifelines that keep you grounded, reminding you that there is more to life than just the struggle to survive. Chapter 15. The End of the Road, Death and Legacy. In the medieval world, life is fragile, a fleeting moment that can be snuffed out by the smallest misstep. The average life expectancy is short, and every day lived is a gift, not guaranteed. Disease, accidents, and the ravages of war are constant threats, lurking just around the corner, waiting to end your life prematurely. From an early age, you are taught the harsh truth that death is never far away, that it is an inevitable part of the human experience. The constant awareness of mortality shapes every aspect of life. You wake each day not knowing if it will be your last. The illnesses that strike without warning, the battles fought with no certainty of survival, these are the realities that you face. Life is never something to be taken for granted. It is a gift, yes, but also a burden, because every day you live is one step closer to your inevitable end. This acceptance of death is not something that comes easily. It is a truth that is difficult to grasp, one that is shaped by the constant loss around you. People die young, children are lost to sickness, and soldiers never return from the front lines. The fragility of life is ever present, and it is something that you carry with you every day. The fear of death is something that you must learn to live with, not just as a concept, but as a constant, looming presence. But in this harsh world, there is also an understanding that death is a part of the natural order. It is the great equalizer, the one thing that no man or woman can avoid. And though death is feared, it is also accepted as a necessary end, a final chapter that each person must face. The cycle of life is incomplete without it. And so, while the fragility of life is ever present, so too is the understanding that death is not something to fight against, but to prepare for, to live with, and to embrace when it inevitably comes. The medieval burial rituals, when death does come, it is met with solemnity, tradition, and ritual. The medieval world believes in the passage of the soul, and death is not just an end, but a journey to the afterlife. The burial process is a sacred event, one that marks the transition from the mortal realm to whatever awaits in the world beyond. Every step of the process is imbued with religious meaning, as the body is prepared and laid to rest in accordance with the teachings of the Church. The body is washed, dressed, and anointed with oils, all done with reverence. The face is covered, the body placed in a simple wooden coffin, and the priest comes to perform the final rites. Prayers are spoken, and the soul is commended to God. It is a moment of reflection, both for the deceased and for those left behind. In a world where death is so common, these rituals offer comfort, a sense that the passing of life is not something that happens in vain, but is part of a larger divine plan. The burial itself is a public event, a final moment of respect paid to the deceased. Family and friends gather to witness the lowering of the body into the earth, to say their final goodbyes, and to offer prayers for the soul's journey. The burial grounds are sacred spaces where the deceased are laid to rest, often marked by simple headstones or crosses, but always with the understanding that the body has returned to the earth to be reclaimed by nature as part of the cycle of life. These rituals, though simple, carry profound meaning. They are not just about honoring the dead, but about providing a sense of closure, of knowing that the departed are cared for in their final moments. In a world that offers little certainty, the rituals surrounding death provide a semblance of order, a way to confront the inevitable with dignity and faith, the fear of hell and the hope of heaven in the medieval world. Death is not just a physical transition, it is a spiritual one, and it comes with the weight of immense fear and hope. The Church teaches that after death, the soul is judged, and depending on your actions in life, it will either ascend to heaven or descend into the fires of hell. The fear of damnation is as real as the fear of death itself, and it shapes everything you do, every action you take, and every thought you harbor. Hell is not a vague concept. It is described vividly by the Church an eternity of torment, of suffering beyond imagination, where the damned are punished for their sins. The descriptions are meant to instill fear, to drive you to live a life of piety, to constantly be aware of your actions, knowing that every sin brings you closer to eternal damnation. The fear of hell is a constant presence in the medieval mind, pushing you to seek forgiveness, to live in accordance with the teachings of the Church, to fear God's wrath, but amidst this fear, there is also hope. The Church offers the promise of heaven, a place of eternal peace, where the righteous are rewarded for their faithfulness. Heaven is the ultimate goal, the beacon that guides you through the struggles of life. The Church's teachings offer the hope of eternal life, a life without suffering, a life with God. This hope provides comfort in the face of death, a belief that there is something beyond this world, something better, something worth striving for, the balance between fear and hope is what shapes the medieval view of death. The fear of hell keeps you on the straight and narrow, constantly seeking redemption for your sins. The hope of heaven gives you the strength to endure the trials of life, knowing that, no matter how hard things get, there is the possibility of salvation. It is a delicate balance, one that drives you to live a life of faith, of devotion, and of reverence for the divine as you face the inevitable journey toward the afterlife, the legacy left behind in a world where death is so common. Leaving a legacy becomes one of the most important aspects of life. How you are remembered, what you leave behind, whether it is through family, deeds, or faith, becomes your immortality. In a time where material wealth can be lost, where titles can fade, and where names are forgotten, a lasting legacy is the truest form of immortality. For some, the legacy is left through their children, the next generation that will carry on the family name, the family traditions, and the family's work. For others, it is through the deeds they perform, the good works they do in life, the kindness they show to others. And for many, it is through faith, the belief that they lived according to God's will, that they were faithful servants of the Church, that their actions were pleasing in the eyes of the divine. In a world so fleeting, the legacy you leave behind becomes a way to extend your existence beyond the grave. The idea of legacy is not just about what you do, but how you are remembered. The stories passed down, the rituals that honor your memory, the names spoken by future generations, these are what ensure that, even when death has come, you live on in some form. The legacy you leave is a reflection of your life, of your choices, of your faith. It is your way of telling the world that you existed, that you mattered, and that your life, though short, had meaning. In the medieval world, the idea of legacy is often tied to the notion of honor. To die with honor is to ensure that your legacy endures. Your name, your deeds, your faith, they all become part of the story that is told long after you are gone. And in this legacy, you find a kind of immortality, a way to live on through the lives of others, through the impact you had on the world, the peace of acceptance as the years pass, and the weight of life becomes more apparent. There comes a time when you learn to accept death as a natural part of the cycle. The fear that once gripped your heart begins to fade, replaced by a quiet acceptance. You understand that death is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced as part of the journey of life. It is the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another, a transition that is inevitable, yet peaceful in its finality. In the quiet moments before your own death, there is a certain peace that settles over you. The struggles, the hardships, the pain, all of it has led to this moment. And in this moment, there is a deep sense of understanding. You have lived, you have loved, you have fought, and now it is time to rest. The fear of what lies beyond fades, replaced by the comfort of knowing that your journey is a part of something larger, something eternal. In the acceptance of death, there is a release, a letting go of the worries, the fears, and the uncertainties that have plagued you throughout life. There is peace in knowing that your place in the world, your legacy, will continue in the hearts and actions of those you leave behind. And in that peace, there is comfort. The journey does not end with death. It continues in the cycle of life, in the memories of those you loved, and in the legacy you left behind. Conclusion: reflections on a brutal yet beautiful world, in the shadow of endless hardships, disease, death, and war. The people of the medieval world endured with a resilience that still echoes through history. Life was short, often brutal, and fraught with challenges that would break most. Yet they persisted, moving through the days with determination and strength. What drove them to keep going, to rise every morning in the face of adversity, was not just the will to survive, but the quiet moments of beauty, connection, and peace that occasionally emerged amid the chaos. These moments, however fleeting, were enough to sustain them in a world that offered little else. The strength of the human spirit in the medieval world is an enduring testament to resilience. People fought through the endless cycle of seasons, the ever-present threat of famine, the brutal conditions of battle, and the specter of disease that took so many too soon. Yet, despite all of this, they found ways to laugh, to love, to celebrate, and to hope. The human spirit was not crushed by the weight of suffering. Instead, it found ways to endure, to rise again after each fall, each loss. It is this resilience, this ability to find beauty even in the hardest of times, that connects us to the people of the past, making them not so distant, but a reflection of our own struggles and triumphs, even in a world defined by suffering. The people of the Middle Ages clung to life. They found solace in their families, in their faith, and in their work. They discovered joy in simple pleasures: a meal shared, a song sung, the warmth of the sun after a long winter. Their resilience was not born from ignorance or denial of their harsh realities, but from an understanding that survival was not just about avoiding suffering, it was about enduring it with grace, and when possible. Finding peace within it, the legacy of medieval life, how their lives were often brief and fraught with suffering. The people of the Middle Ages left behind a legacy that continues to shape the world today. Their struggles, their sacrifices, and their perseverance laid the foundation for much of the modern civilization we know. The lessons learned through centuries of hardship, the importance of family, faith, community, and resilience have passed down through the generations, influencing the way we live, the way we interact with each other, and the way we view the world. The castles, the cathedrals, and the towns they built may be worn down by time, but their enduring presence speaks to the strength of those who constructed them. The medieval world was not just a time of darkness and brutality. It was a time of creativity, of innovation, and of the deep desire to create something that would outlast the hardships of the present, whether through the great works of art, the advancements in agriculture, or the written word. The people of the Middle Ages contributed to the world in ways that are still visible today. The monks who painstakingly copied manuscripts, the artisans who crafted tools and weapons, the farmers who tilled the land, they all left behind traces of their efforts, their ideas, and their dreams. In every corner of the medieval world, there is a trace of this legacy, an invisible thread connecting the past to the present. The Middle Ages may seem distant, a time of hardship and struggle, but it was also a time of growth, of human ingenuity, and of the constant effort to build something lasting, something meaningful. Their legacy is not just in the structures they built or the art they created, but in the way they lived with strength, with faith, and with a profound understanding that survival itself was an act of creation. The enduring lessons of the past. The Middle Ages may have been a time of brutal hardship, but it is also a time rich with lessons that transcend the centuries. The struggles of the past are not confined to history. They are a part of the human experience, offering insights into how we face our own challenges today. The resilience, the endurance, and the focus on faith and family that characterized medieval life are not just relics of a bygone era. They are enduring truths that continue to resonate with us, no matter how much time has passed. In the face of disease, famine, and violence, the people of the Middle Ages learned to adapt, to endure, and to find meaning in their lives. They understood that life is fragile, that it can be lost in an instant, but they also knew that survival required more than just physical strength. It required hope, the belief that there was something beyond the immediate struggle, something worth fighting for. This lesson is as relevant today as it was centuries ago. In a world that often feels uncertain and fragile, we can still draw strength from the understanding that resilience, both personal and collective, has the power to carry us through even the darkest of times. The lessons of the medieval world also teach us about the importance of connection, family, community, and faith. In a time when life was often solitary and fraught with danger, people leaned on one another for support. The bonds of family were crucial to survival, and the strength of the community ensured that no one was left behind. These same lessons are evident in our modern world, where the importance of relationships and support networks is vital for mental and emotional well-being. The Middle Ages remind us that, in the end, it is not just our individual strength that sustains us, but the strength of those around us. The struggles of the past are not just stories of hardship. They are stories of triumph, of human tenacity and ingenuity. The lessons learned in the medieval world, the importance of faith, the value of family, the power of hope, are not confined to the past. They are universal, resonating with us today, and providing a guide for how we might face our own challenges with strength and grace, a quiet farewell to the Middle Ages. We leave behind the world of the Middle Ages. We carry with us the understanding that, despite the harshness of that time, it was also a world where humanity found ways to endure, to dream, and to survive. The people who lived through that brutal period are not just figures of the past. They are a reflection of the strength within us all. The Middle Ages were a time defined by struggle, yes, but it was also a time of profound human resilience, where people found ways to connect with one another, to create, and to believe in something greater than themselves. The beauty of the Middle Ages lies not in the grandiosity of its architecture or the brutality of its battles, but in the quiet moments of survival, of love, of faith, and of hope. These moments, though small, are what make the medieval world both brutal and beautiful, both unforgiving and deeply human. In the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, the people of the Middle Ages did not give up. They fought, they prayed, they lived, and they loved. As we say farewell to this time, we do so with the quiet understanding that the challenges faced by those who came before us are not so different from the struggles we face today. The human experience, despite the passage of time, remains constant, defined by the desire to survive, to connect, and to make meaning out of the lives we lead. The legacy of the Middle Ages is not just in the structures they built or the battles they fought, but in the resilience of the human spirit that lives on in us all. And in this understanding, we find not only comfort, but connection to the past, to each other, and to the shared journey of life itself.